Welcome everybody to the April 15th meeting of the Parks Advisory Committee. We're going to go ahead and get started right off the bat with roll call. Go ahead, Jonah.
All right. Frank Stevens. Here. Shelley Reynolds.
Here.
Tristan Jones. Not yet, anyway. Sherry Winters.
Here.
Robbie Cantrell. Yeah. Jim Hill. Yep. Woodrow Terrell.
Here.
Tiffany Long.
Here.
Victoria Rizzo and Tristan Jones just walked in the door.
Present. And I'm here.
And Victoria Rizzo's here, yep. And myself, Jonah Jacobson, is here representing staff.
All right. Number 2 on the agenda, review and approve March 18th, 2026 meeting minutes. I saw the email that Paul sent, and all of my corrections were in his email, so just park name corrections. I think you saw those. And one where it said Chair Stevens, I should probably say long, but he got all the ones I saw.
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, the only other one that I had noticed, sorry, I'm bouncing back and forth here. The only other one I had noticed is on, I guess, page 7, in the discussion around the park ranger position. It says at the bottom bullet, under my statement, it says he confirmed the park ranger position will be under the Parks Department and he would manage the contract. I believe this discussion was around a FTE position, so there is no contract. I don't think that's what I said. I would manage the position, perhaps. I haven't watched the video, but it's not a, in any case, it's not a contract, it's not a contract or a discussion of what it's about.
Did anybody else notice anything in the meeting minutes that would need to change? Anybody online? I don't see any hands. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I move, Victoria, I move we approve the March 18th meetings, minutes as amended.
Second that, Frank Stevens.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Those meeting minutes have been approved with the changes that we noted. Item number 3, communication from staff.
All right, welcome everybody. Happy Tax Day. Yeah, it's good to see you all. I have a few things to tell you about today. So I guess going back to the last week of March after our meeting, Parks Workers assisted Public Works engineering staff in falling and clearing a group of trees down at the bottom of Beaver Creek Canyon around the east bank side of the Beaver Creek Bridge construction site, so that parametrics can come in later this month, I believe, or the beginning of May, to begin doing some final survey and layout, and I believe the in-water concrete work is still scheduled to begin later in the summer. In early April, the final inspections of Sharon Nesbitt Heritage Park were completed, and that allowed us to officially open the elevated bridge connecting Depot Park to the rest of the Esplanade. And a reminder that on June 20th, there's going to be a second grand opening event, an even grander opening, if you will, to celebrate the full completion of the new park. And this event has been dubbed Summerfest, reviving a Troutdale tradition in this new venue. At least in name. I don't know if it's exactly going to be Summerfest, but it's so anyway, put June 20th on your calendars for Sharon Nesbitt Heritage Park. And following the rollout of the new paid parking system at Glen Auto Park last summer, which involved an extended period of only issuing warnings to unpaid vehicles. At first we were only planning on issuing warnings for the first 30 days. That that was then extended to the entire first summer. And so we have been meeting with the vendor that we work with, Passport Parking, on that system, and putting some plans in place to begin a citation process, beginning hopefully as soon as Memorial Day weekend. That's the target. And that's been quite a lot of work that myself and Public Works Director Holton have had to sort of figure out and with our colleagues over in the municipal court side of things, just in terms of how the citation process is going to flow. But in any case, we're almost there, and so you'll probably see some of that going on at Glen Auto this summer. Not on your vehicles though. If you're all Troutdale residents, just a reminder that Troutdale residents are able to register two of their license plates for parking fee exemptions at Glen Auto Park. Let's see, we had Parks and Facility seasonal employees. Sorry. Oh, yeah, no worries. We had Parks, sorry about the lights, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. We had our seasonal employees, arrived this week, and we had most of them anyway, another one coming later in June. And but we have 4 of them starting with us. They're fantastic people. We're really happy to have them aboard. They're getting up to speed and getting trained. But already I can tell that they're going to be a great addition to the team for the summer. So we're grateful for having them. And Parks and Facilities Chief Operator Tatiana is doing a fantastic job with the seasonals and their training this summer. And yesterday, the 14th, the city's full application for Metro's Nature and Neighborhoods Capital Grant was successfully submitted. Our application proposes a multi-year improvement project at Helen Althouse Park that will involve a robust roster of private and nonprofit partner organizations, as well as many opportunities for volunteer support from Troutdale residents who want to get involved in the project. I don't want to get into too much detail or start counting unhatched chickens the day after we turned the application in. But I'll say it looks hopeful, and there were some exciting last-minute developments that are going to make the project more feasible for the city. So should we get selected for an award. I'm going to update you all, of course, on the grant application once I have any news to share from Metro, but I just want to give a huge shout out and thanks to Marley Boxler and Bill Peterson and Erica Palmer for their skillful and creative work producing the application materials. Thank you all very much. And yeah, and that's my staff communications.
Thank you. Are there questions for Jonah, Shirley?
So I think, Jonah, last time you might have mentioned something about a slide in the Beaver Creek Canyon. Did you make mention of that got taken care of? I haven't really
No, that's going to require some engineers to probably look at and evaluate. I'm not just going to go out there moving dirt after a landslide. That's, yeah. So that's potentially a way to make it work. Well, we have people there, so that's something that I would probably leave. We are going to need to access it pretty soon for the bridge build, and at that point they will be moving a skid down. But certainly not until we get into some drier weather, I think. It rained pretty hard just yesterday.
So when you said maybe later this month, that's not anything we would need to have taken care of?
Would you like me to forward that over to my friends at my colleagues at Public Works?
No, I was just more curious, that was all.
Yeah.
Safe for people right now?
I believe it's safe for people. I believe it is safe for people, yes. Yeah, I don't have any concerns about that.
Okay, all right.
Tristan?
Yeah, Tristan. Is the Beaver Creek Canyon going to be closed during any of this operation?
I imagine there will be periods of time when it will be closed to the public. And I
More
would,
so on the SP4 side than on the other side would be my guess, correct?
yes, I have not heard any specific, parts of the project or certainly not any dates, but I would imagine that's probably going to be part of it.
Cool.
Frank?
Concerning Glen Otto and citations, who is writing the citations? How is that process working?
So at present, the citations will be issued to unpaid vehicles through our contracted security service, Oregon Patrol Service. And that will be taking place during the posted hours of required payment, which are park open hours from Friday through Sunday.
Shirley?
So just one more question related to Beaver Creek Canyon. Are you going to be, or will there be some type of posting on the signboards there near SP4 and possibly on the other side? I don't know. Like leading up, I don't want to say giving warning, that sounds terrible. Doomsday or something, but is it going to be like somehow alerting the residents there of what's going to be happening?
I believe so, and I'm fairly certain that will be a requirement of the contractors who are doing the work. Safe closure of the work site most likely will be something that is a requirement of the contractors who are doing the work.
Well, do they have access to the board there that you can slip information in and?
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure, and I'm going to make a note to talk to Scott tomorrow about both the rock slide, because he saw it with me when we walked down there, and also to ask him about any specific dates of closure that we need to begin posting at the trailheads.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
John, I have a quick question. In regards to the ticketing, if a resident, and this is just something like to think about, you might not have an answer, but if a resident doesn't sign up and they get a ticket, would they be able to then get that dismissed, do you think?
There is an appeals process, we have discussed many different potential hypothetical points within the appeals process. I'm not sure if anybody has said yet what happens if a Troutdale resident wants to appeal their parking citation. I'm sure that that's something that would.
I mean, they would be able to show up and then fill out the form ideally. It would force them to do that.
But that's definitely something that we are, gonna wanna touch upon in the appeals process. So I'm also making a note to make sure that makes it in.
And then a question about the Beaver Creek Canyon. So there was an article that came out in the Outlook, and I don't know if Paul emailed it to you or not, but also on the signs, it mentions bikes being able to go across the bridge, and I can't remember if like the first poster we saw with like the bridge on it, where I was like, is that already done? Like it felt like it was done, even though it was just a survey about the canyon and what it could look like. Bikes aren't going to be down there anytime in any near future, are they? We're not going to have cyclists going down there, are we?
I can tell you that currently there are some kids riding gas-powered dirt bikes in Beaver Creek Canyon occasionally. I wouldn't be surprised if some folks are riding mountain bikes down there sometimes. I think that if we want to discuss off-road cycling trail opportunities in Troutdale, there are some excellent opportunities for that, and perhaps once we, build this bridge and achieve a better level of trails connectivity, we may find that there's some issues with trail use conflict, I guess, between pedestrians and cyclists, and we may have to navigate it at that point. But if something this committee is interested in the future is like designating some trails for cycling,
I think that would be great. I mean,
and that's an excellent conversation to have, I think. So that's maybe a future agenda item.
yeah. So that people know where they're welcome to do that. That's all I had. Does anybody online? I gotta open make this bigger. Hold on. Didn't see any hands online. Nobody online have questions for Jonah? All right, if that's it on communication from staff, we will move on to public to be heard. There's no public in the room, so public online. Anybody online have anything to say?
Tiffany, it's Paul Wilcox, Troutdale. Thanks, Tiffany. I made a public comment at last night's council meeting regarding the Granado parking system. Right before the meeting, I was looking over the explanation page for Granado parking, and it stated that the two-plate limit applies on a per person basis rather than it specifically says it's per resident rather than per household. And I kind of question whether that's the intent, because I was making the point that a 4-person household could, under that system, register 8 different vehicles. And Mayor Ridma's brief response was, his understanding was it was per household. And we didn't really get into it, extended conversation over that, but I just kind of wondered what staff's interpretation is, basically.
Well, I don't know if I want to call, I mean, I can give you an interpretation or an assumption. I don't have the approved ordinance as written right in front of me. I would say that would be the thing that should be defaulted to, whatever the language is in the ordinance, not the website. But my memory is that it was per household. So, but again, don't take that to the bank, because the ordinance is probably what is going to be the thing.
Any other questions for Jenna? Or any other public comment? No? Okay. We are going to move on to number 5, Urban Forest Mastery or Management Plan completion. So I'm assuming we're going to hear from Erica because she's here.
Yes, and also another guest.
Is that Rose?
Yes.
She just disappeared.
Is there?
Oh no, I was trying to up here. Good evening, PAC. I'm Erica Palmer, Community Development Director for the City of Troutdale. For the past 6 months, we have been working on developing Troutdale's first urban forestry management plan. In addition to that, reviewing the code for street tree removal and making some updates to our code, doing that audit work. In addition to that, we've also been updating our street tree, trees that you can plant that are like the right kind of trees within the right of way for residents. And we are working on a street tree manual. And the manual is really an educational component to this whole project that'll help residents pick out what type of tree, where that tree should be planted, how to prune your tree, water and take care of it, and much more. So I'm really excited about that educational piece that we will be able to hand out to folks about street trees. Why are we doing this project? This project was actually a project in the Parks Master Plan a couple of years ago. It was stated in there that Troutdale didn't have an urban forestry management plan, and that's something that we should look into to doing. A grant through the state came out last year for projects like these, and we went ahead and we applied. And so we got state funding, $100,000 to do this grant through the state. So I'm really appreciative to the Department of Land Conservation and Development for giving us the opportunity to move forward with this project. We've been working with DUDEC. There are consultants on this project, and Rose Newberry is here this evening, and she's going to be talking specifically about the plan and all the different components that we've been working on with you all. Do you have anything to add, Jonah?
No, just that the consulting team at Dudek has been fantastic and extremely knowledgeable and helpful and a pleasure to work with. Have produced some really excellent results for us, I think. So, and do you want me to drive the slideshow, or are you going to do it? Either Erica or Rose. I'm happy to share my screen.
Jonah, if you could drive, that'd be great.
Okay. Let me just share my screen here. Sorry,
All right, I can see it, so I assume everyone else can. Okay, I'll get started. Like Jen and Erica said, I'm Rose Newberry. I'm the project manager from Dudek, who had the privilege of leading the Urban Forestry Master Plan. Next slide, please. So tonight I'm quickly going to go over the process that we went through to write the Urban Forest Master Plan, community engagement, the plan itself, which is the major deliverable of our project. But like Erica said, we also wrote a street tree manual for residents and then also did an audit of your municipal code. Next slide. So we did an existing conditions report. This will show up as appendices, two appendices in the Urban Forest Master Plan, which included a canopy analysis and inventory, as well as an internal audit of processes. So that is done. We did community engagement at 3 events, as well as a survey that is done. And then the UFMP street tree manual and code audit, we've all presented to city staff and are now doing our final edits and putting into layout. So the UFMP, which serves both externally for the public, but also internally, has executive summary, describes what the UFMP is for. It summarizes those appendices. So how is the canopy cover distribution looking now? What are the goals? How does the city operate and how should it operate around street trees? And then what actions can city staff be taking to improve and maintain street tree canopy over time? The street tree manual is a very visual deliverable. It is public facing so that residents can plant the correct street trees, install root barriers, maintain their trees correctly so that we're getting trees in the ground, the right trees in the ground for the planting space, if there's overhead wires, but also getting them cared for so they grow into mature trees. And then the code audit was for processing how removal permits and replacements will be processed by city staff moving forward. Next slide. So we did extensive community engagement at pop-up events, and I'm moving on face so I can actually read what we did. Movies in the Park, First Friday, and then a survey online. We heard about how important trees are to the community, but also the real challenges with sidewalk uplift in maintaining street trees. Next slide. So overall, we heard that residents of Troutdale love their trees, really important part of community identity. But safety issues were a real concern, including falling branches and sidewalk damage. People really appreciated the shade and beauty, wildlife habitat of trees. Residents wanted more trees in retail and industrial areas, parking lots, and a lot of parks. The biggest barrier to planting we heard was damage. And so 38% of respondents felt like they would plant trees if the property damage risk was lower. And then broad update, broad support of the code update. Next slide. So now I'll talk about the plan itself, which is our biggest deliverable. Next slide. Moving my face again. So the plan is rooted in 5 principles: maintain and enhancing the urban forest through practices and funding. So this is what city staff does on a regular basis. And then also ideally getting funding from the state and federal government to maintain that. Second is providing training, education, outreach on tree care and maintenance to residents. So ensuring that residents can take care of their trees and keep them healthy, plant the right ones, because residents really are a huge partner in the urban forest. 3 is promoting a diverse, resilient, and pest-resistant urban forest. So how do we adapt to changing weather, increased fire, emerald ash borer, to ensure that heat domes and snowstorms and pests don't wipe out the urban forest all at once. The 4th is improving data collection and monitoring management. So how do we know if what we're doing is working, and then adapting if something isn't quite going the way we thought it would. And then last, integrating trees into city planning, infrastructure, and climate adaptation. And how do we make sure that the urban forestry master plan doesn't just sit alone on a shelf, but touches everything else in governance and works really well with it, so you're not having conflicts come up later. Next slide. Some of our findings recommendation. We saw uneven canopy, low diversity and age balance. We saw a lot of younger trees, which means there's been a lot of good planting recently. But how do we make sure that those trees are able to grow into mature trees? And then ongoing utility and maintenance conflicts. Planning ahead, there's a new street tree species list and tree manual that also includes planting areas and how to deal with overhead wires so that residents can pick the right street tree for their specific considerations. Preparing for heat, drought, and pest, and then being able to reassess it. Is this actually working? And then protect and maintain. So how do we keep mature and high benefit trees? And then also get the young ones surviving to get to that mature stage. Next slide. So we also found that there's increased capacity needed. Urban forestry is staff limited and can often be reactive to hazards and storms and not planned maintenance cycles. Also, we've seen Troutdale's been great at getting grants and to do rushes of work in years, but how do we have that be really robust and maintain over time? Building durable capacity, a structured program, potentially cross-training staff for skills. And then lastly, stabilizing funding and data. How do you get grants year over year or funding year over year to be able to predict level of services better? And then also keeping really good data, both to be responsive to what's actually happening on the ground, but also good data helps you get more grants as well. Next slide. So now I'm going to move from the plan to the manual, which is probably where you and your friends will interact with the most. Next slide. So here are some images from the Street Tree Guide. You can see the table of contents, emerald ash borer, regulations, spacing, nursery stock selection, root correction, how to plant trees, how to care for them, water, pruning, everything you need to know to take care of your new little tree, make it a big old tree eventually. Next slide. And then these are some of the graphics you'll see, so the spacing guidelines based on utilities, fire hydrants, other trees, how to select good trees from the nursery to know that you're getting a healthy one, and then how to do root correction so that the trees are growing healthy after you get them out of a container or burlap. That's just a sampling, but it's a very visual process to help residents who aren't arborists be able to take care of their trees and plant them correctly. Next slide. Lastly, I'll talk you through the code audit, which is the most technical and zoning nerdy piece, but we're really important in actually processing those permits when people need to remove street trees and replace them. Next slide. So we monetize the policy and framework to make sure that it worked for Troutdale. Now, made sure it was clear and comprehensive, added professional standards, made sure that the permit triggers and process were really clear. So when you're removing a tree or multiple trees, what's the replacement requirements, who enforces it, just to make it really easy on staff and the public to understand who's doing what and when, and then an improved enforcement framework for street tree replacement to make sure that if people are removing trees, that we are getting new appropriate trees in the ground for the long-term health of the urban forest. Next slide. All right, any questions for me?
I have a question about the list of trees. It went from 44 trees on this list to 130 trees, 131 options. This is a really great list. I liked how we had size, height, spread, and different things about the trees. It's really useful information. And my question is, and this goes along with the street tree manual as well. Is a digital copy going to be available? I imagine we're going to pass them out at like First Friday, and hopefully if we have some park events, we can give people these to spread the word. But is a digital download going to be available for people if they want to download it at home or look at it online? And then if so, is this something that we can make sortable? So if I am wanting to plant a tree and I don't want to read through this whole thing, I just want to see the trees that get to 15 feet in height, and I can data sort it, and it will just give me a list of the 15-foot trees at full maturity. And then I can look at all the interesting things about just that. Or say, I only want to look at trees that are going in the 4-foot, like data sorting. Is this going to be accessible so people can sort? Because I look at this and I'm completely overwhelmed by 131 options, which is amazing, and there's a ton of information on here. But if we could have this available on the website so people could sort through the list that way, I think that would be a really useful tool.
Could it be downloadable, or you could just sort on your own computer?
I mean, I can always copy and paste it and put it into my own thing, but that is a step, and I do think it would be a useful tool to have. I don't know how difficult that is to make happen on the website, but just adding data sorts so you can see a little arrow and just drop down and select what you want to look at. Because in several of these small, medium, large trees, the heights, there's several of the same heights. And then the planting areas. And so it would just be nice to have a smaller list narrowed down by what I really want to look at. That was my suggestion on that. And then it's going to be available online, which it sounds like it will be.
It will be available online. I need to reach out to our IT people about if we can put it in some form of an Excel spreadsheet or something where you can download it and sort through the columns or rows. I don't have that answer for you tonight, but we will definitely look into it.
That was just a suggestion.
It's a great suggestion.
Tristan.
Yeah, I agree, like some sort of filter that you could filter into your search would be really cool. I also, I know that the manual will probably have more details with specific trees, but I was kind of like just pretending like I wanted a new tree, and I was looking through the list, and native trees are important to me. And I remember the old list has at the bottom, that a note on natives, and it talks about, unfortunately, there's very few tree species that exhibit the characteristics, but it does say that many of the cultivars come from native trees, but we don't really see what those trees are in the list. And in the comments, there's some really great comments about the aesthetics of the trees, but on the survey note, I noticed 19% people were interested in the habitat for wildlife, and that was only 1 point below the aesthetics of the tree. So I think it'd be really cool to have comments on this is a good pollinator tree, or this creates habitat for this. And because I kind of look at this list as it's selling me a tree. What tree do I want? And I kind of agree a little bit with Tiffany where it's pretty overwhelming, but there's actually not that much information. So as somebody who really loves trees, it was still kind of hard for me. So that's kind of my comment, and I think there's probably room to make a comment section of the trees have more qualities in it.
I like that idea, and I've seen different tree lists do different things to have visual indicators for what, sometimes they'll have a notes column that, will have pretty descriptive things about this tree has fragrant flowers that attract bees and pollinators, or but I've seen other lists that also just have a series of icons,
like a little
bee or a little bird or something like that, next to the as you move down the list. So there's various ways to do that, and one example of a tree list that has some pretty good notes like that, written notes like that, is actually Friends of Trees collecting list. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And then
certainly incorporate some of that kind of stuff.
And just one other thing too with the common names, a lot of them just have one common name behind them. But I was looking at the California myrtle. I'm like, what's because that was one that was mentioned that the native range made up. And I'm like, what tree is that? I'm like, is it a wax myrtle? That's what I'm like. That's kind of more of a bush, And then I googled the botanical name. I'm like, oh, it's a bay laurel, which I know, but I didn't know. So I would just recommend having as many of the common names in the common name section as possible, just save folks kind of doing what I had to do. Yeah. Cool.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody online? Frank?
Yeah, so I'm looking at our attachment C from the minutes of the last meeting. So we're really focused on street trees, but I'm more interested in our urban forestry as well in the canopy, and I just want to make sure that gets included. And then also I know it's in the code, but I don't see anything for heritage or significant historical trees. So I'm just kind of comparing to other tree plans that I've seen, and those are included in there as well. And that was something I made a note of. And then I had other items like how does it tie into our stormwater system and swales and wetlands. Did that come into the conversation at all for this study, or mostly infrastructure, I guess, is where I'm at?
Certainly a lot of conversation about sidewalk infrastructure and streets infrastructure, just being that is the primary, area of focus around street trees in Troutdale and in many places. Just or I guess the point of impact or intersection or so that's I guess as far as stormwater systems. Yeah, any amount of water retention and absorption by more plants and tree roots is a net benefit. Usually, I guess if you're specifically talking about bioswales as they relate to.
Yeah, there's nothing in our code that highlights that, but that could be part of the portion as well. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to see how we have the street tree concept. But I'd like to also see the broader, we have Beaver Creek, Kelly Creek watershed, we have Sandy River watershed, we have the Choctaw Trail that follows a whole other, this is our urban forestry canopy. So we talk a lot about our street trees, but we don't talk hardly anything about our parks. And that line of parks starts at 232nd and goes all the way up to Mount Hood Community College. That's a massive amount of canopy that I think should be included in this conversation. Even if it's just policy.
Yeah. Did they receive like a draft copy of, or any
Of the entire document?
Yeah.
I apologize if you didn't, I will get that out to you all.
Yeah, I know we're in
I-
the brainstorm, kind of the, yeah, we're not in the final.
Yeah, we're not in the final, like,
No, so
phase
it's
yet.
just something that I would highlight is the fact, and then how does it connect to the rest of our ecosystem?
Absolutely.
Metro and regional area as well, because if we're only thinking in terms of Troutdale street trees, that's really limiting us on what we're really looking at for future climate and so on, so on, so on.
Those are all excellent points. I would say that while what we were talking about, is largely street trees, that is not the end of the conversation, and much of it does, discuss regional urban forestry health. There's a huge amount of this that has been touching upon, pest and pathogen threats and ones that exist, or what the next one might be in the future, and how to respond to that and deal with that. I personally see this document, and what Rose mentioned a little while ago, was something in her slideshow about the capacity need for urban forestry specifically, as it relates to parks, but also wildland, but also street trees, all of it. This is this document and is something that has been a need in the community for a long time, but also is sort of a could potentially be seen as a beginning or jumping off point for urban forestry, covering all of those things that you were talking about. I would say the most immediate need is probably for the residents and citizens of Troutdale to have clear instructions and code around the street trees that are their maintenance responsibility. And so that's why that's kind of been the primary focus. And also because it impacts so many other things in the city budget as it relates to to street repairs, not just sidewalks. The city also owns property in the city of Troutdale. We also have to pay to repair our sidewalks. So I see it as sort of the beginning of a larger conversation, and sort of the primary area in which the limited urban forestry staff in the city, which essentially is just me, and I mean the parks workers, but this is the beginning of an urban forestry program in Troutdale.
No, that's an excellent way to prioritize.
And I do just want to mention something about the heritage tree process, because we do have a process for heritage trees. Yeah. It's within our development code. But this gives me an idea that we should probably link it into the plan document itself. So the plan is coordinated with our development code and what it says with what's the process of, dedicating the heritage tree.
Yeah, I tried to even find a list of heritage trees or significant trees.
I think we have 1 or 2.
I couldn't find. I went to the Oregon site. I couldn't find anything.
I know I've seen one, whether it's publicly available or if
I know we have at least one up at the.
I know it's publicly available, and it's either in our comprehensive plan or it's in the development code itself. I have seen
I was
it.
looking through code. I didn't go into comp plan, so.
I think there's a few that need to be added, though. There's a couple of very old oak trees at Sweetbriar Elementary that I don't believe are on that.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm a rider runner, and I'm sure everyone else has trees in their neighborhood they could highlight as well. And it's like, isn't that a heritage tree? I mean, this is a really cool. We have it. You guys understand the difference between significant and the historical aspect, right? It doesn't have to be old. It can be unique. So it doesn't have to be an old tree or a big tree or anything. It could be a specific type of tree that we just don't normally have here. Or like the one across from Harlow House, which is in the shape of a bicycle. would be a significant tree, right? So those are the kind of designs and things that you want to like keep an eye on for when we do go into development, or we're looking at, oh, maybe we should, the oak trees that are down on the Sharon Nesbitt Trail, that we made a point of making sure we kept those trees. Got rid of the poplars. I see that. I think you touched on a great idea. This really is the baseline of maybe the committee is morphing less into parks and more into urban forestry as a whole.
Perhaps, I mean, at this point, I mean, parks is included in urban forestry. You said it yourself, Frank, that, that's a, the parks is a big percentage of Troutdale's urban forest canopy. And then if you zoom out of multiple counties in the region. So it's all of those pieces sort of fit together and overlap in different ways, right? And parks is definitely a piece of it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Tristan had something you wanted to add?
Well, I was just gonna ask, do we have like a plaque for heritage trees?
Some of them do. Some of them are, some of them around are on private property. There is a plaque for the beech tree at College Nature Park that fell off, that is in my office, that we need to have attached. But I have it still. So.
And then just touching on what Frank said, we're creating this like the foundation right now, with all the things that Frank said, like making sure that this foundation doesn't limit us to those things in the future, right? With the urban forestry plan and all the extensive stuff beyond just the street trees, because this is like we're breaking ground here, right?
I don't believe so. I think that there's been a lot of conversation throughout the creation of this document about forward thinking about how to adapt to to new challenges, and changes, and those can be difficult to predict. And so I think that and also we're not just looking at Troutdale. Part of the reason why it was so valuable to get an outside consulting team involved in this project is because they're pulling in people who are looking at examples from cities all over the country, and people have experience in other places that have already gone through this process and already figured out some ways to adapt to challenging situations, whether that's pests or infrastructure issues or
In the booklet that's gonna go out, are we gonna be naming like partners that we work with, like Friends of Trees, for people to get that information? Yes. Another one that I think would be really beneficial to go in there, a lady actually came to the last Citizens Advisory Committee, Katie Kaufman with Columbia Land Trust, certify our backyard habitat. And she did a great presentation for us. I think it'd be really good to have her come and do it for this group as well. But I hope they're gonna be listed in there as well, because it sounded like they can give homeowners a lot of information about what's going on, not just on the street, but in their yards.
Yeah. It goes beyond the street.
I mean, I can't recommend them enough. We had them come at our place, and it's like free ecological landscaping advice, and they're very thorough, and they're very good about following up with you. It's a great resource.
Is the Columbia Land Trust, is that the
It's a Columbia Land Trust certify our backyard habitat is what I have written down. I have a card at home that she gave us that I have the card too.
And I have our contact information.
I would love to have her come and do that presentation for us as well. So I'm glad I remembered to mention that, but I think that's all I have. Anybody else have comments? All right, I think that's all we have. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rose, and presenting the information. I think I'm really looking forward to actually seeing it. And so, and I know that it's gonna go out on the website eventually for public to make comment on or suggestions.
Yes, we're gonna have a public draft out soon.
Awesome.
Of all these documents.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rose. Until next time,
Thank you.
we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is discussing parks and trails interconnectivity. So I think we talked about this in the goals last time we had our meeting, and Jonah asked us to say what was important, and this one kind of popped up a couple of times. So I don't know, Frank, do you want to speak on this a little bit, like what you've been doing or what you would like to see done that like maybe doesn't cost the city much money? I have a couple of ideas.
This is Frank. So some of this originated with, I think, Zach's online, Zach Andrews. Some of the work they've done in the past, and they highlighted connecting the parks via trail, via street, via greenways. Just figuring out how we can get from point A to point B in our green space, and how can we connect that green space. So that really is kind of the thesis, the big, like, where do we go with this? And then it's like, can we take that as a brainstorming point and come up with ideas on how we could do that, and then develop action items that potentially could take us to that place.
Can I just kind of, for my own sake and understanding what the specific goal around this is, and what I can begin to sort of, try to make some headway on here. I just want to understand that it seems like there's a few different parts to this. I assume we're not talking about like actual physical land acquisition.
Unless you can afford it.
And so I think that really what we're talking about here is creating maps, both a handheld online visual map and then actual on the ground, some sort of marker visual. You are on the blue line on the map that you see on your phone. So that's what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
And I think also to add to that is some signage in a few spots that are hidden that I don't think people know are actually spots they can go. So there's like the Beaver Creek Trail that's right across the street from, I want to say, Wiedenen. Yeah, the one that goes down the stairs. It's paved and it's very long and it's between two houses and it's lined with ivy and you're like, am I supposed to go there? And I've entered it on the other end and looked up the stairs and thought, I wonder where that goes, and just bypassed the stairs and kept going the trail because I was already on it and entered it from another place. Also, the Hampton Ravine. The signage just there's no signs, there's just paths. And does the path belong to the apartment complex? Am I allowed to go there? Does it belong to the neighborhood?
Well, it's funny that you should mention that, because there are some of these places around Troutdale that were formerly part of an apartment complex, or were formerly part of an HOA, or were formerly some piece of private property that was at some point not being maintained or was absorbed by the city, or when the HOA was dissolved, it was absorbed by maintenance responsibility was absorbed by the city. So there are some places around town that look like that because that's kind of what they were originally. But I agree that at this point they need to be better marked, right? Keep in mind also that the Hampton Ravine is never going to meet the same maintenance priority level as say Columbia Park or anyway, I would just I just wanted, the point was just that some of those places used to be things like that.
Mm-hmm. I think Sweetbriar is a great representation of that because it's still owned by an HOA and very well cared for by an HOA, but there are tons of really cool little trails and paths that are public. And I don't know, as far as the city goes, if we put out a map, do we let people know those trails exist? That's not ours to let people know about. because it belongs to them, but there are all these little cool throughways that you could just walk all over, and, I don't know, the map exists. It exists online, the GIS map, and you can see little squiggles. Some of them seem to go into like the water though, and areas that don't exist anymore.
It needs to be updated, and this is going to take, this is something that our GIS map person is going to need to work on. And they could do it, and this is something that I would actually solicit some of your volunteer help with. Anybody who walks these trails, Tiffany, Frank, anybody who gets out there and actually walks these trails. What Austin is gonna ask me for, if we're gonna update, GIS maps of trails, what he's gonna say is, take this iPad and go walk the trail. Turn on our GIS and go walk the trail, and hit the button when you start and hit the button when you stop. And that'll save the shapefile, and then I'll get it, and I can put all this stuff into a map. So we can start doing that.
I would absolutely volunteer to do that.
The iPad to go walk the trail. Okay, all right, great.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. And I can kind of start to talk to Austin about organizing that. Yeah. So that would be the first step in updating and updating these maps. Because I agree, a lot of them are, there are a bunch of things on there that are not accurate.
I will say it has been updated since I've joined, because I looked at it a lot when I first joined Parks Advisory 2 years ago, and there have been updates made to that map. So it is changing ever so slightly, but there are weird paths on there that I'm like, where is that? And I've looked for them and I can't find them, or I know that that's creek, and I'm not walking in the creek, so
Those lines.
yeah, the lines
They're
kind
almost
of,
like a waterway.
they're brown lines, and it would be really cool when we're talking about the map and the connectivity. I would like to know how to properly use that map. Like, what information can I get on it? There's so many different buttons that I can click, and so many cool things that it does, and I've just been in there just randomly clicking things, and I don't know what information it would be cool to learn that, if that's ever something that we could figure out how to learn, how to use those maps properly. Like, oh, you're looking for information about a lot, this is how you find, because it's just trial and error for me. I don't really know what I'm looking at, and I'm trying to find different road names or different, I know I run into different, like, community names like Strawberry Meadows, and I've never been able to find that again. It listed all the different little housing communities at one point. I don't know how I did it, and I've never been able to replicate it.
Subdivisions.
Okay. But it's a very cool system, and there's a lot of stuff in there. I just don't know exactly how it works. So I would totally volunteer, sign up, come grab an iPad. As soon as you want to do that, you let us know, send out an email, and I mean.
Let me first begin this conversation with Austin and see
Okay.
what he needs. And I guess here where I would love the advice of the citizens on how to do this parks project, and the involvement of you all would be, essentially being, helping with some of the data collection part of it, and of course, let me first talk to Austin and see what he needs. But yeah, going out and walking the trails and updating those GIS layers for him. The other part would be providing that feedback, directly to him. And I'm happy to facilitate that as much as possible, but I just think it's about the user experience aspect of it, about what the end user finds helpful, or intuitive, and what is just what the heck is this? So, because he would probably love to hear that. And he may not know some of these things that, people are, experiencing when they're trying to use the thing that he's built. There's a lot of layers in there. There's, for a lot of different things. So it's a lot of work that he does to create all of that stuff and update it and maintain it. But this is a conversation he and I have had in the past about about trails. And it starts with some data collection but I will definitely begin that conversation with him. And I'll email all of you, and I'll take, anybody who wants to volunteer with any aspect of this, that's, I think, the best place to start. The other part of it about actually putting, I guess once there is a more updated and complete map that has a better design that is easy to understand for people, that can then be turned into an actual hard signage in some places. And that's where we get into more of the maybe like actual material cost of side of things. Up to that point, it's staff time.
And, go ahead, Tristan.
Yeah, I just kind of have like a pipe dream of the digital map where it exists, where you could be on your phone and you can look and you can have like it filtered out where it just says like parks interconnectivity layer or something like that. And you see actual like pre-designated routes that take you like either if you're by foot or you're by bike, that take you from each park. And you could have like, okay, today I'm gonna look at this, 3-mile loop. That's about how much time I have. You could actually click on that loop. It'd be like a blue loop or something. You click on it, it could give you like an elevation profile. It could give you average time of completion. It could tell you the amenities that are you're going to encounter along the, this might be getting into like app development.
This is trail maps, right? I mean, if everybody just downloads the trail maps app, we could, so.
But it would actually be like a route that is not just parks, but it's a safe way to get from one park to another, and you could.
Something on the website that says like, I want to go from X to X, there's those two fields, and then it's just like, and I'm on a bike.
Yeah, totally.
And then it's like there, that'd be cool.
I mean, that just makes it like kind of exciting and easy for people to actively access these parks. You have a beautiful day, you've got 3 hours, you want to go check out this park, you open it up and you say, oh, this is how I can get there from here, And then, people could comment like, I had a great time on that, and it kind of brings us into kind of how people interact with the rest of the world,
I will say that and leading into our next agenda item, I will say that there is a fair amount of, from the last conversation that I had with Bill Peterson about this a while ago, there was a fair amount of available funding for like bike path and trail type projects, and so it's possible that we could look into some amount of an updated like trail system map being potentially.
I mean, we've added the I'm sorry, this is Frank. I jumped in.
Go ahead.
We've added trails on the Chop-Chop Trail. I mean, when you think about it, we've actually increased some actual trails that Port Portland didn't get a lot of traffic, and now they are. Marley and I have kind of bantered about this too. It's the same concept about like, okay, someone comes to the visitor center, why don't we have the go for a quick hike option readily right there? It's like
QR code you scan on your phone.
Yeah, I mean, because she even asked me, it's like, hey, do you have any? Because I have, I use Strava and I use Ride GPS and I use Run GPS, and I have routes that actually are focused on one park to another park. It's like, this is 3-park day, that's a 4-park day. This is, so we actually looked at putting those on the website for the visitor center as well. So
We get sued by Strava or somebody?
Yeah.
I don't know.
well, that's it. I mean,
Well,
it's,
you could use OpenStreetMaps, which
yeah.
is.
So she was trying to come up with ways to integrate that in with our economic visitor destination concept as well. That ties in with the residents, because I love watching just how people travel. It's like, I like the organic part of it. Where am I seeing kids taking their skateboards or their scooters, and how are they getting from the school to the park? And what route are they taking? And it fascinates me with the flow of how they come up with this route. And it's like, dude, I never thought of going that way. And they know all the shortcuts. It's literally like, cut through this, cut through that spot.
So it's a great
Talk about
opportunity.
volunteers. Yeah.
It's a great opportunity too for West Troutdale to access the river, access all these gems that East Troutdale has. You know, we could give them a really easy pathway to go there, and their biggest barriers are gonna be like 257, and but those are gonna be short moments, but.
Yeah, that ties in with Edgefield too. I've done some trail stuff with those guys on that side, and you'd never realize the subdevelopments have those fields that they mitigate with the Edgefield, they utilize for trail walking. So they have kids in those neighborhoods that are actually using those routes. So it's pretty cool.
All right, well, I think we've had some good conversation around this. I don't know if anybody wanted to comment online. I don't see any hands up. We've got a goal of working on the map and fixing the little lines that go to nowhere first as step one. I think that's a good goal to work for, and maybe we'll leave it as a running agenda item where we can see where we're at with that.
Yeah, definitely. I will reach out to Austin tomorrow, and I'll recommend that he watch this portion of the.
Could we have Austin come to a meeting at one point?
Austin is actually the city's only full-time remote employee.
Okay.
He, due to, I won't go into his personal stuff, but he did, for family reasons, had to move back east. But he's also one of the only employees who works fully, on the computer, and so he can do his. He's been doing his job and doing a fantastic job at it.
Very cool. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on our list, which is discuss alternative income sources to supplement funding gaps. It's kind of a big one. I don't.
I don't know exactly what those might be, but I'm all ears if y'all have ideas. Yeah.
It's Victoria. On the Glen Auto parking money, I thought that's for parks.
It is. It does not really come close to solving our issues.
But I mean.
It is supplemental, it is. And actually, thank you for mentioning that, Victoria, because I think that, perhaps one of the obvious, income source, if we're talking about income sources, right? We're not talking about, donated money either through a grant or philanthropic, individual or something, but like income sources, right? Like revenue sources, right? When I read that, the thing that immediately came to my mind is the passport parking system. If this may not be directly related to parks, but certainly facilities, the downtown, the city-owned downtown parking lots are city facilities that I manage. I think that, at some point, if folks want to look at the income source of applying the passport parking system to the downtown parking areas, I'm not talking about the street parking, I'm talking about the parking lots. That would be a revenue stream that would be considerably larger than Glen Auto, I imagine. In any case, that's I know that is a much bigger conversation.
This is Tiffany. I wonder, we think about one of the things that we've talked about as a committee a lot and has come up is the surface at a Imagination Station and how expensive it is going to be to replace it, and how it always gets cut. We put it on every year, it gets cut every year because we don't have money for it. Is it ever a possibility to do a fundraiser? That park is so well loved. Could we ever put on a fundraiser of some sort to raise money specifically for that park? And if we didn't, we could put it aside and it would stay for that part if it wasn't enough, or go with what they will give us to make it more doable. It's such a loved park. It could be an event. We could promote it and try to get businesses to donate to it. We talked about last time, Imagination Station, brought to you by Amazon. You know, like we could get businesses to try to donate to this if we make it an event, like a carnival or an event or something where we could raise money for one specific thing, which is something there's always a shortfall. We have some money, but we don't have enough money.
Events cost money to put on as well and time to plan. I guess this would be a heck of a fundraiser. It would, it's not a small amount of money. I guess, if, I suppose I can look into it. I don't really do. If you're asking, if the question is what's stopping us from doing that, I don't know. But sure. I can certainly ask some people if that's
The word fundraiser in regards to one specific thing that needs to be done out there and see what other people say. I don't know. It was just something that popped up in my mind because, we talk about a lot, like can other communities help us? How do we get other people involved?
I just want to say this, not because the idea can work or it can't work or whatever, because it's not like I'm bringing forward an idea, but the inception of Imagination Station way back when was tons of community coming together, the putting together of it. So, yes, well loved, and I almost feel like, I just don't know what it would look like, but it does seem like there could be something
There. Yeah.
I don't know all the rules now because I feel like there's been more layers of government put on with anything you want to do. It seems like there's more regulation.
Like, can a city even have a fundraiser for something like that? Like, we don't know that. So we're talking about other alternative income sources, and I'm just putting it out there, like, maybe we can.
I think usually when a city, needs to raise funds for a specific thing, then, that's something that, is put before the voters as a tax levy or something like that, as a fundraiser, like so I suppose that's, on the one hand, you're saying here's a voluntary, like, we are taking donations, and on the other hand, it's like, we want to have everybody fundraise to have the thing that's for everybody, but.
What do you think, Erica? You have a finger up, and I want to hear your input. Community Development Director Erica Palmer.
Well, I do know, that there are groups out there like you could create Friends of Imagination Station, right? Yep. And that group then could go out, they could fundraise, they could collect all the money in the world,
Give it to the city to do something. Mm-hmm. Interesting, okay.
But I don't think we can go out there with our hand out being like.
Right, right.
Just to clarify, the biggest issue is this is O&M, it's not a capital project. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge for almost every city when they're dealing with this type of situation, is the fact that there's really no funding that comes in. After we build it, we get a ton of money to build it, but then it goes away. There's no O&M funding that comes back from federal, state, county, metro. All that stuff is after the fact, which is why we always look for grants. So that's why the grant process is kind of our filler for O&M. So, yeah.
But the other thing is, Imagination Station is used by so many other people outside of the community that it would be nice if there were more than just asking the Troutdale residents to, pay for something that's used by so many others. So, the idea of Friends of Imagination Station, or Friends of Columbia Park, or whatever, that could lead into a way that impacts people that come there, that maybe they come up with ideas. I mean, in the sense I was thinking, even if it came to where somebody's willing to donate some of the product necessary or some of the labor necessary, does it cross a boundary where they go, wait, we can't do it. We have to go under this code line with, sometimes it feels like it gets thwarted at that level. Somebody can raise a house in a day with a bunch of people helping, but you can't necessarily raise a city building in the same way or something, so.
The house can also burn down in an hour because of wiring that wasn't discovered.
I'm not, yeah,
I'm-
I wasn't.
I'm just
meaning
saying,
that
you know.
part. People can come together to accomplish a lot, but the government ties our hands on a lot of things.
Sure. I agree with that.
Yeah. This is Frank. From experience, I would say this is the part where I would brainstorm and go, what nonprofits could a Friends of the Imagination Station tie in with and use to your benefit? So that's the collaboration part. So I would be going out and going, okay, who are my nonprofits in the metro region that are dealing with parks? And then use them as my partners and start partnering in these groups that would be tied into this Friends of Imagination Station. And then, as we said, it's like the big groups that's where it starts the momentum going. Because that would give you more options for grants as well. That partnership usually leads to more grant opportunities, it's just that collaboration. That if you just look at it from only Troutdale, that's a challenge. I mean, the neighborhoods, everyone's on fixed incomes, so on, so on, so on.
So how would we find out who all's using it on a regular?
Certainly the Placer AI data tool
Yeah.
Marley has is very helpful with that. And I believe we've already looked at Columbia Park repeatedly with Placer, and it's clearly a regional amenity.
Yeah, I can't help but think of the big places, industrial especially, in Troutdale right now, and I'm looking at Amazon, and I'm looking at FedEx, and I'm going, what contributions are you making to the community in which you are doing business? And I'm not seeing a lot. So they're kind of high on my radar right now.
I love, Sherry, I love what you're talking about the barn raising concept. I think that is a fantastic, not only analogy, but literal, whenever possible. And I would love to harness that, at whatever level we are able to. Obviously, there are steps along the way where, for whatever, safety or insurance purposes, not everything can be done by volunteers, right? But I love that concept. I love that it's built into the history of Imagination Station. I would love for it to be, part of the future of Imagination Station. And so I completely agree with you that that's something that we should harness. Even if it's not saving the city money, just for the intrinsic value of the community involvement in ownership of this resource.
Because it ties in a little bit when we're in public safety even, and we're talking about things that, how do you get more people involved in the community or feeling really attached to the community? And it's more like those kinds of events or things like that where then, so even when we talk parks, we have, like we've talked before, volunteers in the area that want to kind of take care of the park too, or watch over the park. It helps to create a part of that community so solidly. And I don't know.
So what does it take to create one of those friends groups besides just a Facebook page? I mean, do you have to file any paperwork?
So to file as a nonprofit is actually not that big of a deal, but it does have some requirements. Forming a nonprofit, you'd have to have a board. You'd have to have So you become a 501A, B, C?
501(c).
They got like a
501c.
different
501c, you have different
501(c).
classifications, but the simplest one is basically you have a chair, a treasurer, secretary. You basically have minutes. If you have an account, it has to be voted on by the board and so on and so on. So it does have some legalities, but I did this for schools, for a cross-country team. And that's how we funded thousands of dollars into a team without the school having to pay for it.
So, this is Tiffany. What does that look like for us moving forward? We're talking about how it's a great idea, but what are the steps we can take to actually make this happen? Do we start recruiting people who are interested in helping by going to the park and like trying to figure out who's using it, what large groups are using it, and then contacting them and saying, would you be interested in being part of a group so that we can repair it and make it better for everybody?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to, I'm happy to support and facilitate that however I can. I think that needs to be.
In my mind, I'm seeing
effort, but
I'm seeing there's the big belly cans with the signs on the side. We could maybe put something on it and get people to sign up somewhere on a list and
who are these people using Imagination Station?
groups, nurseries. I'm thinking softball teams, their families are using it while they're there. They're coming in to play softball, they're coming in to play soccer, and all their kids are, when they're not on the field, they're on the playground. So we're, like, the people that we rent it to are places to start with. Like, their families, their parents, their grandparents, all these people are there using everything around it. And then they're bringing their kids to watch the games or wait for their games to start, and they're going and playing on the playground in the interim. So I think that might be one place to start.
Yeah, this is Frank, going off Sherry said, I think it's organic. It starts with the community of one or two people, and then it builds. And that's how the Imagination Station got built. And even after it burned down, remember, we redid it again, and that community came together. Nonprofits, communities, neighborhood associations, HOAs, they all have peaks and valleys. So it's not like this constant, they're all doing active engagement all the time. Sunrise Park is a great example of that. You saw a huge involvement, and then it just died off because people left, or they moved, or they aged out, or whatever. So you have to see it as that, rebuilding that, and you're starting over kind of from scratch. I think we're starting over with the Imagination Station from a group of people that probably weren't involved with the original, but we got to start from scratch. So,
do your kids use Imagination Station much, Tristan? Do you guys go up there?
When we have like friends in town, we'll go there, or family in town, because it's a big, wide open space. But we try to get around as much as we can, walking and biking on our free time. So we spend a lot of time in Glen Otto, which is often our private playground, especially this time of year,
That's people tend to stick to their neighborhoods, especially for something like a playground where you're just like walking there or something.
But I mean, it's an incredible playground. I mean, my kid likes all the uneven surface. It's a plus for him.
I only ask because it just seems like, perhaps some of the folks who are involved in committees and council who have young families might, either that or like, Molly's play park, rec program might be a good sort of focal point for like
Little Trouts.
finding folks who want to get
always
involved in that.
has presentations as you come in. She has like, this is what's going on. I mean, that'd be a great opportunity to be like, Imagination Station.
well, and Wood Village Play East, is that the?
So I'm just thinking too, I know that that surface was put in with the idea that it would make it more accessible to those in wheelchairs or what have you. I have to admit, in the times I've been by, I have never seen anybody in a wheelchair there. It doesn't mean they don't come there. I just never really have seen them participating in that capacity. But I'm just kind of wondering if the idea was we're trying to get something going and we really don't know the commitment level or what people want. What if people were coming back saying, well, we actually would prefer a more uneven surface, or we would prefer it being more of a chip surface, not a.
Or pebbles or,
Yeah, what I mean,
different type of
like,
surface.
it could be just, and I'm not talking flammable surfaces, I'm just talking like, if somebody wanted that differently, or a majority of the people that were surveyed were saying that kind of stuff, that flat surface is less desirable, or matters nothing to them, like they would rather. I mean, is there a chance that surface level could change, and because it could be like these different options we could have, and then.
And the
people-
cost associated with them.
Yes.
Because I don't think people understand how expensive it is to actually put that flat surface down. I know when my kids were babies, I preferred a flat surface because that means they're not eating wood chips or pebbles or, I mean, they're gonna find other things to eat irregardless, but it's less. And so I think the Trout Play Park is a great place to start because those people will probably be like, no, we want it to stay the way it is. Because it's a playground that you can go to that's different than the rest of them, where their kids might get a little less dirty. And maybe they can go on a rainy day because it's not as muddy and as gross. But you make a very valid point. What do the people want?
Yeah.
I think once it's been created that way though, and then it turns into a maintenance thing, it starts turning into like a liability thing, right? Like there's a standard that was set, and if it's not maintained to that standard, is that a risk for the city?
There are legal requirements for accessibility in ADA that we are required to adhere to in construction standards. Wood chips are actually considered ADA acceptable and fall protection acceptable, even though most kids who utilize wheelchairs and parents of kids who utilize wheelchairs would tell you that it's not great, but they do. The engineered wood fiber does meet ADA standards. And there was discussion about ripping the whole thing out and just filling it with engineered wood fiber. There was various concerns about that. One being that that would just be the end of it, that we would never get back to getting a surface. There are all kinds of flat surfaces. There are all kinds of poured in place surfaces that are not flat, that are shaped, that have built-in shapes. And there's a really cool example at Glen Haven Park next to McDaniel High School in Portland. They have a pretty new play surface that has like these weird sort of like cone-shaped things that rise out of it.
Gabriel Park over in Multnomah Village has like big old sweeping, kids are running up and down. That's a really cool example.
It's nice. It's expensive, but it's nice. But in any case, I think that this is a good action item for this one too. If y'all want to, this definitely has to be something that's citizen led. But if there's going to be the creation of a Friends of Imagination Station 501c, then certainly that's something that if somebody were to start flyering or surveying parents at the play park event, that's one place where I think you might reach a target audience of people interested in getting involved in that. So I think you just gotta find a citizen champion. But then once that is if that's an approach to fundraising, then that's
A different way to supplement a source or something, I don't know, we're just spitballing here. All right, any other ideas for sourcing and supplementing funding gaps? That was a long talk. Kind of went off.
You got me thinking about accessibility now. It's like that. Sorry, this is Frank. Because Sherry brings up a very valid point. Is if we're at a point where liability shuts it down because our O&M, we can't maintain a surface that's for accessibility. It's a catch-22. Then why would I shut down the play area when we could just remove everything and put in the chip seal that would replace, even if it's only for not accessible for everyone, at least it's still open. So that creates quite a thought process for me. I'm trying to figure that one out. It's like, how do we provide accessibility, but at the same time, not shut the whole system down on itself? So, yeah, interesting discussion. On the topic of funding, I think a lot of this, I really love partnership and collaboration. And I've been going to a lot, I just came back from Wenatchee where we had a transportation seminar. Kind of things that I think as a city we should be actively engaged in. If it's parks, then we should be going to Trails Coalition, OTC. I briefed at the last OTC for Oregon. These are things that Troutdale citizens should as a volunteer, I think that could be part of our active nonprofit engagement as well. Most of the organizations at these symposiums, summits, they're all nonprofit. So these are the people that we would be wanting to partner with and collaborate with.
See, and this is Tiffany. Frank, I think that would be, if you know of something that's coming up that you think would be beneficial for one of us to go to, is it okay as a committee to ask you to send all of us that information and see if any of us are willing to go? Because you're on the hot button topic point of that. You know all that's going on. And I don't, but I might have availability and be able to go to something like that if I knew it was happening.
I think that's what I'm implying, is the fact that, that could be one of our action items, is basically to figure out what's going on in our region, our area, and then actively get involved.
I like that idea.
I'm still not against, though, you asking Amazon to fund it.
Oh, every
Would the city be
day.
opposed to their name getting slapped on part of
I
it?
run by on
The
Troutdale
Amazon
Trail
FedEx
every
imagination.
day.
Yeah, I think they should just pay for it and not put their sign up.
Wouldn't that be so bad to have their name saying it was brought to you by
We'll never know if we don't ask you guys. Frank?
I gotta say, Northwest Natural Gas is on my list. The Portland General Electric is on my list.
Bremet Construction.
Bremet
They're
Construction.
around a lot.
Bremet Park sounds better than
Yeah.
Amazon Park.
Not to mention,
That's,
if we had been doing this right and charged them for parking to begin with.
Might be able to fund it, yeah.
I mean, we think about creative ways to bring in funds. I don't think the key, we were just talking about parking off the get-go. It's literally like, you guys want to make some money? I just came back from the Wenatchee briefing, and Washington briefed on speed cameras. There are 41,000 speeding incidents in one location in Washington. Each one of those is over a $200 ticket.
oh yeah, the city would get rich real fast putting
Oh my God.
red light cameras on 257.
Remember, the intent isn't to make money, but
I know,
41,000.
I say that.
Those are pipe dreams.
So,
Sorry, I've heard the other side of it by far too many people. So
I know, I'm not a fan.
And I'm going to tell you also that once people become wise to it, that it isn't, and it's a really expensive.
well, I think if you were at the briefing, it was a lot more nuanced than that. They were actually, I wouldn't say opposed to utilizing cameras. They just understood it was a tool that should be used as a progression to other things.
Yeah, Sherry, I just want to say one thing about the parking. I understand Glen Auto Park, that serves a complete purpose there, having it. Putting paid parking in downtown Troutdale, there are Troutdale businesses that will be very upset by that.
I don't think
They have come over there many years coming to testify at city council, not being happy with that, and, the talk of it. I don't think that's the best option to draw people into Troutdale. I've been coming down here to see the chiropractor, and if I had to pay to park to go see the chiropractor, I promise you I'd be going to a different chiropractor.
I know that would be a very very controversial conversation, and I know that.
I'm sorry I even brought up parking.
No, I was just saying in general, I just know that has been a hot button for a long time.
Cars don't buy product, people do.
All right, we're gonna move on. That was a good talk, and we had some good ideas, and I think we have some good action ideas and some things to move forward with that we could bring up at future meetings again and see if anybody has found the hero that is going to make a friends
I
group.
already got my part.
I have mine too. There's always room for another one. Okay, number 8 on our agenda tonight. Discuss Parks Advisory Committee volunteer involvement in upcoming city or park events.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just gonna, this one, was requested by the events team. I guess I just, I would.
Like First Friday events?
Yeah, like where do y'all wanna, table, do public outreach, for
I
PC?
100% want to do it at the grand opening.
At the grand opening event?
That
Okay.
is a grand opening of a park.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we should absolutely be at that one.
I'm just gonna blast through this. I made myself a quick little
Would be in Denmark.
spreadsheet deal that I'm just gonna kind of go down the list of events. Starting this is in chronological order. So, and we don't need to talk about anything past Halloween. I'm not gonna talk about we're gonna meet again and we can talk about the fall and winter events later, I think, right?
Okay.
Unless you all want to make that decision now. But
Well,
that's
Halloween is important to
that's
me
far
because
away.
of the
I was
dog
gonna say,
park.
Well, you're definitely involved in that one, but I'm talking about like Windy Wonderland and all that, like, we don't need to, we don't need to go that far in the future here, so. Weekend after this weekend, Earth Day, April 25th at Columbia Park, it's been at Helen Althouse and at Glen Otto recently also, by the way, it isn't always at Columbia Park, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Side note, sorry.
No, I didn't realize that, so thank you.
Yeah, so does PAC want to have any involvement or tabling at Earth Day?
I mean, I can. I was planning on being there anyways.
You don't have to, but if you're gonna be there anyway, you can just talk to people. It can be unofficial PAC, like you can be the chair there, but.
I would say weather dependent on what I would bring with me or share, because if it's pouring down rain, it's never fun to like show people things. It's messy and not fun.
Unless you have dogs.
We got the Cascadia Fine Arts Festival, new city-sponsored event, May 16th and 17th. I know, Frank, you're involved in that already. I don't know if PAC wants to be. And also, you guys don't have to be at every event. Like, we can just, especially May 16th and 17th, you've already said you want to do the June 20th one. So should we just skip Cascadia Arts Festival and have?
Actually, I've got that one covered, because I'm gonna be doing flagging. Saving them about $1,000 because I got flagging certified.
So you'll talk to people about parks when they cross the street?
Dude, that's a moneymaker for parks. I didn't even think of that. We could,
How is it a moneymaker?
Charge a toll across the street?
no, because volunteering as a flagger, I'm saving them money because I got qualified as a flagger, which means that's $1,000 that we could be putting in the park. I didn't even think of that.
He's gonna put out a tip jar.
Yeah, it'll be a small jar, peanut butter.
Okay, so the only one of these so far is the June 20th Summerfest Sharon Nesbitt Heritage Park grand opening. Any volunteers in the room who want to say they want a table at that? Anybody who wants to?
I mean, I'll do it,
Tiffany?
for sure.
See if I'm working.
What time is that?
That is going to be in the morning. It's from, I believe, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Let me ask a question if I can. What do these look like?
Yeah, what are you
We
doing?
say we're gonna have a table, but what does that mean? We just have a table, we'll stand there. So, and I'll tell you my experience. Two or three times I've done it down on Main Street when we've had the First Friday things, and it's just people streaming by. Because why would you come talk to me?
Okay,
We
so,
had- At that time, let me finish if you don't mind, Chair. At the time, we had nothing identifying who we were. I mean, there was no canopy, there was nothing on a table, I mean, you brought some stuff, but what does that resonate with people? Why would they come and stop and talk to us? Because we had a little basket or something. I think we need to have some material. And by material, I mean either a pull-up thing that says, come talk to us about the parks, or something identifiable to say, there's some legitimacy to Frank standing behind an 8-foot table. That's all I want to share.
I agree. I think that, yeah, you gotta get something to draw people in, you gotta have a reason to be there, you gotta have something to talk about. So maybe we need to begin this conversation with, what are we talking about to people?
what's your idea, Sherry?
What if a little survey would get developed that maybe could be driven with either a QR code, or maybe it could be a tablet there that somebody could fill out that would relate to Imagination Station and thoughts on
That's not a bad idea.
the surface or something like that.
Yes.
So they're
I
coming
think there's
forward.
two main things we could talk about. We could pull people in talking about Imagination Station. We can also talk to people about, gosh, and I just lost it, I had it in my head, it's like the Urban Forest Mastery Plan. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll have the pamphlet yet.
People about parks funding and staffing in general, I mean, all these things
It's
are.
a brand new park.
Yeah,
So,
it's
and
like my daily.
Could we have
that
a-
was the very first event that I did, and that with Parks Advisory, and one thing that Frank and I have discussed when we do these events, it's not people that live in Troutdale.
Yeah.
Oh, I
It's
get that.
visitors.
I get that.
And so nobody's gonna come to the table because they don't have any interest.
That's true for First Friday, but these other ones that we're talking about, I think that the same concern exists.
I found the most
I
productive.
know that Frank is legitimately there to talk about parks.
Yeah.
I love this idea of having some sort of survey or some purpose to speak to people.
That was actually, we tried that technique at Sunrise Park.
Could we make like a really fun-looking giant suggestion box? It says park suggestion box.
Nobody ever puts a
No one?
suggestion. I have it. I made one. And it's at every event and I've only ever gotten one suggestion.
Fun-looking?
Tiffany had a great
It's
display.
wooden and it says really big, wanted suggestions for
okay.
parks. And,
I thought that would
well,
be
it's
good.
not, the
Yeah.
thing is the events we're going to are not events with people that live in Troutdale.
What is it that you want to connect with people about and you know, like,
I want people to know what's available to them. I want them to know how amazing our parks are. I want them to know about the expression swings we have in our parks for moms with little babies, that they can actually swing with their babies. I want them to know that we have programs like the Little Trout Play Park.
but what if you're at an event that is more Troutdale residents who already know that stuff and you're trying to do outreach with, so there's different goals here. I think what you're talking about is really good for something like First Friday. You're talking about exhibiting Troutdale to people who don't necessarily live here. You're talking about providing information to people who are visiting. The survey question is another matter, and that is community outreach for Troutdale residents about a specific
that's-
topic, right?
I like it.
You know.
Like, I don't, honestly, after doing it last year, doing several different events, which I tabled at a Movies in the Park, I tabled at the dog park thing, just because I was already like at those, and it wasn't great. There wasn't, it seemed like a lot of work for not much payoff, because I felt like those people didn't care, they didn't even live here.
That's exactly my point. The 8 of us could go stand in parks and it's a complete waste of our time.
That's why I like the
Unless there's a
idea of
purpose.
doing something at this grand opening where we have a purpose. Like, we don't want to show up to something unless we have a purpose. I agree with that.
I think Jonah's point is good. I would also say that we come up with the topics to talk about. We talk about some silly stuff, guys. We really do. I know of 4 meetings we talked about basketball nets. I'm like, but could we ask members of the public, of our citizens, what is it that you would like to see discussed? And we're supposedly representatives of those people. This is an opportunity to ask them that questions, right?
I'm with you. Yeah, I can vouch from when I approached, I approached a survey, informal survey questions at Sunrise Park about putting in trees, and the amount of response. But it was good. It meant that I got to know people. I now have them coming to other parks, and we talked about other parks. But those survey questions were specific. It was basically just 2 questions. How do you feel?
That's it. The other thing is, you went to one of our parks and talked to the people that were in the parks, who are people who actually live here. And that's what we were talking about. If we're
But it
gonna
was
do
tabling.
events or do things like this, we need to go to our parks and talk to the people that are visiting our parks about what they want to see
I
happen.
think that's a better use of our time than
Yeah.
going to an event.
I would say though, because we've already determined that Imagination Station is a regional gather.
Yeah.
Having input from other areas is great. In that circumstance,
Absolutely.
I agree there. I don't always agree the way some stuff is reached out, we gather, and it's like when even the urban tree stuff and we gathered info at First Friday, it's like, well, yeah, but that is an influence from so much different. What do Troutdalians really want? I mean, like, where are we really standing on that point? So, yeah, depending on what kind of information we want.
If we do something like this at this opening at Sharon Nesbitt, I think we should also be willing to look at a busy Saturday at Columbia Park and go and seek people out that are using the park and get their opinion. You know, like, get those people to take the survey.
Earth Day is on Saturday. April 25th. Sorry, I don't know what day. And it might be sunny and beautiful, and there might be a bunch of people there, so that might be an excellent opportunity for it. Just saying.
I just don't know if we could put a survey together about it before then.
Not even. I mean, yeah. I could certainly ask some people about that tomorrow if we're want to get that going. But I guess if you want to focus on Columbia Park, focus on the events at Columbia Park. If you want to focus on talking to people about that, movies in the park.
That is an event at Columbia Park, but there's not a lot of people. A lot of people that go to movies in the park aren't from Troutdale. Again, which is what I learned last year when I did it.
So that's an excellent.
Okay, if it's creating like some request on fundraising or, I mean, like if we're getting a
A lot of
friend.
people that are going to movies in the park, though, use Imagination Station.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's
Yeah,
what's
I
there.
think you're nuancing exactly what you're going for. Is this, if you're gonna do a survey and push, I mean, First Friday would be a great place for Imagination
Movies in the
Station.
Park is going to be on June 26th and July 24th, and so if somebody can start to get the ball rolling on some Friends of Imagination Station, group, by then, at least to the point of having some
When
sort
are the
of
movies in the park
promotional
dates?
materials to give to people, that might be a good time to start to promote that. It's June 26th. I believe movies in the park is on Fridays usually, and July 24th. We're only doing 2 this year.
Hopefully they don't get canceled because of thunder and lightning and rain. All right.
And if I'm hearing y'all correctly, you want to steer clear of the first Fridays? Done with first Friday for now?
I think it depends on what happens in the next month and if we can get somebody to put something together, because I mean, the city is usually down there anyways. To just go down and join the table and try to get people's input on something very specific like Columbia Park and Imagination Station, and see if we can't get more people on the hook to take a survey about that. If I have something to do, I'm not against being down there to do that.
I will say, perhaps this is something that we do want to revisit in the next meeting, although I am not, I just realized before this meeting that I'm gonna have a difficult time going to our next meeting. When we talk about hold and cancel, I'll mention that, but I have a 3-day intensive training in Oregon City, and so we'll see what, anyway, what I was gonna say was, we need to get through budget approval in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Depending on what happens with that, there may be a certain amount of public outreach that the Parks Advisory Committee needs to do with Troutdale residents about the results of budgetary decisions that may happen in the next couple of weeks. So that may be something that you all maybe need to go and talk to. That is not, not the funnest topic. So, but we'll just see how that shakes out. So we can, if you want, we can bump this to next month. Although I may not be here next month, I may have to have somebody somebody fill in for me next month. I'm going to be doing the May 20th through 22nd. I'm doing the ISA Arborist track cert, the tree risk assessment qualification. Down in Oregon City, it's like 2 9-hour days and then exam day. So it's
Who would step in for you if we still had a
essentially Tatiana. I know she did that for Tim a few times when Tim was sick.
All right, committee concerns, initiatives, future agenda items. I mean, we've kind of went all over that. If anybody has anything to add, we'll go through real quick. Shelley?
I also won't be here May 20th. I'm headed to Colorado for 2 weeks. So that would be my input for the May 20th agenda items. I won't be here to
Have input then. All right, Frank?
For agenda items, are you asking?
Well, initiatives, concerns, agenda items, closing comments, that's where we're at.
I think we can keep going with the discussion on connecting, because that's follow-up. So we'll follow up with the action item on the GIS connection there. And volunteers, I guess, for that. We'd have to walk around with a monitor, and then continued discussion, that would be an agenda. And then Imagination Station, I love the idea, as Sherry brought up, make that an agenda item on how can we, let's explore that some more.
We have answers to, yeah, we will by May,
Yeah,
budget. What
and if
happened
we could
with
set up a
budget.
QR code and get that ready for the upcoming summer, I think that would be a great opportunity.
What's the QR for, sorry?
Survey.
For a survey? I mean, we, yeah, is that a request of our IT folks or you all?
No.
Can I interject here? When we did it for public safety, it ended up being, Robbie was the one that put it on, I don't know if it was Survey Monkey or whatever, but there was 3 of us that broke in a small group and worked on questions, trying to come up with the most clean questions that didn't have, bias in them and things like that. So we're trying to come up with something that would get feedback from people that would get in all aspects or something. So we tried to do the best we could, and then in the end, it got tweaked some. Robbie got it put together on Survey Monkey, but whatever it was. And it was all but free. Robbie, the way the information came from Robbie, I mean, he made access to everybody who wanted it, and you could just see and read the results and that kind of stuff. And it was, yeah, the only cost, we had gone to city council for, I don't know if it was $100 or something like that. So papered copies that we could have at like First Friday or whatever, if anyone didn't have access to or didn't want to do with the QR code or whatever. And I can't remember if we had like an iPad or something that they could fill out there on the spot too, or somebody entered them in, or those that did paper copies. But we did spend a little bit of time coming up with questions. And one of the specific questions we had, we were trying to get regions of Troutdale that were there to figure that out. So if you were from this area or this area, we had them kind of mapped out, really low tech in the sense like west of 257th, south of Reynolds or something like that, just that cluster, in a few different areas to know. And then another group if it was outside of. Since we were determining questions that related to safety, it felt more important to know specifically where you were feeling unsafe in your neighborhood. So if you located in Sweetbriar and you said you felt unsafe, that gave us an idea like, okay, there's people there feeling unsafe. So it was giving us a little bit of an idea that way. I think for this, we don't necessarily have to have that, but there might be a reason to know if people are saying what they feel. Like if you were in Sandy Palisades, maybe you don't have as much connection with Imagination Station, so maybe your input would be different or something. I don't know. I know I've just babbled on way too long for what this should be, but I do think it's important to have some type of identity of where you are living. So if you're outside of the Troutdale area, it's totally fine to fill out the survey. Just identify that you're outside the area, so we would know if half the input came from outside the area or what have you, something like that. So I don't know.
So yes, on the agenda item.
Do we want to make it a goal that everybody come back with a couple questions that they think we should ask about Imagination Station or put on this survey, and then plan to try to put it together as a committee next month?
If you're gonna try to ask anybody questions about Imagination Station at April 25th Earth Day, then it's not.
Then it needs to be done sooner, obviously.
You don't have to.
I don't think there's enough time to do it by Earth Day, unfortunately.
I would focus on just developing questions for now.
Yeah.
And come up with as you said, come up with a format. Maybe take some of the ideas that you guys used, some of the things that worked, some that didn't.
And it does not need to be a gigantic survey right now. It feels like to me but I feel like would need to know the whole point of what this goal is on this survey.
That's, yeah, that has, yeah.
So that could be
That would
an item right there. So the goal and the question. questions. And I think that would.
I would actually limit your questions to 5 or less.
Oh, yeah.
People doing a survey don't want to stand there all day.
Usually 3, I think, is my.
5 or less.
If they're really simple, like a yes, here or here, you just pluck one button, that's one thing. It's a little bit too much reading.
We're already slipping into agenda.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
Victoria?
If we've got a group to start a 501c, it does cost money. It can be even up to $1,000. Because you have to incorporate, you have all these IRS forms you have to pay for. So we need a big donor to get us going.
For a 501c? It doesn't. Done. It doesn't cost anything.
Yep.
Well, it's something to take into consideration. Anything else? Okay, Tristan?
Yeah, I mean, really excited about the conversation about interconnectivity of parks. I mean, it seems like something that we could, concrete that we could do for the city through this committee. But I also agree we got to figure out how to figure out what the city of Troutdale wants out of their parks. That's definitely the purpose of this committee, right? So I think that's one thing we can all work on. But I think we also got to be careful. We're all living in our own bubbles, I know what everyone around me wants, and you guys know what everyone around you wants, but we're all living together in this community. So we got to figure out some objective ways of figuring out what the community wants. Surveys are probably our best tool.
Parks master plan, there's a lot of surveys done in that.
Yeah,
It's not very old.
A lot of the work has already been done. That's a great point.
Still didn't have that many people participating in it. That's my problem with it, so.
So what
Did you want to add anything to what you said before?
It wasn't
I was
for
gonna
lack of
add,
trying.
a survey could be done on trail connectivity if there was on a different lane. That's not what we're focused on now, but that could also potentially be a survey.
Okie dokie, well,
Nothing? Anybody online? Woodrow?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of parks connectivity, and I think we need to look at some of the nearby residents and some of the users. Not, I don't know if a survey is going to catch too broad of a swath. I think we need to focus on the people who are in the parks and the people who are near the parks. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Woodrow. All right, I don't really have anything to add. I think I've talked enough this meeting. Hold or cancel next month's meeting? Sounds like we want to hold it.
it's gonna be difficult for me to be here, but if you want me to find somebody to step in and facilitate your meeting in May, then I'm more than happy to do that. I know that the switch between the intensive training that I have to do and doing.
Can we see if she's available to do it and she's willing to do it? Maybe, if not, we'll just cancel it beforehand?
I suppose I could ask, yeah, I guess that doesn't, but then we're not voting, so.
Yeah, it's just.
Is there worthwhile or urgent content?
Yeah, I don't see any agenda
That's my
items here that
question,
are right
too.
now.
Is there anything that has to be done?
No, unless you need to vote on this survey, and I would argue that you don't need to vote on this survey. This is a citizen-led survey that is citizens asking other citizens questions about creations of a citizen group. So I don't know if that requires an official on the record vote to ask people questions. So you guys can write that and start asking and come back and tell me, we asked these questions, this is what people told us.
Okay.
And I ask, is it something that we have to get approved by city council?
To ask a survey? I don't think so. I mean, unless your messaging is we are going to do this thing with the parks, unless you're telling people some definitive thing, but I don't think that that's what you're gonna do, so.
Maybe draft it and see if Jonah has any input.
Yeah, send it over to me, I'll take a look at it. I mean, that's, but I don't think that anything's stopping you from just asking your friends and neighbors,
Hey,
what.
this is Woodrow. I think it's a good idea to at least run it up the flagpole, so we're not cross messaging with anything else that's going on.
Yeah, sure, send me a draft if you have something. But I'll look it over.
So are we canceling next month's meeting?
This is Shelley. I move that we cancel next month's meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we're gonna cancel our May meeting. We will see you in June then. And that's it. Thank you.